Welcome to the Stellar Stoa. My name is Sean Stellar Ranney, and if you watched a couple of the past podcast episodes, you're noticing that this is a quite different setup we got here. I got a little fire, I got a little whiskey, we're drinking a little Woodford Reserve, double oaked, but I thought I'd try something new. Only a couple episodes into the podcast, but I'm kind of trying to be, I don't know, like more authentic. I think it's hard to be authentic sometimes on like stuff like a podcast or whatever. I'm very good at being authentic in my normal life, I feel like, but social media is tough, man. And especially like with this kind of content, philosophy, self-help, self-betterment. But at the end of the day, this kind of stuff is authentically me. I like bourbon, and I know alcohol is the demon these days, and I do think if people have an issue with alcohol, don't drink. But, sitting by a fire, old school stuff, like fireside chat. And that's kind of what I want this podcast to be tonight. Just a little fireside chat. You, me, a little bourbon. So, listen, if you're listening to this at night, you're watching at night, you like a little bourbon, maybe pour yourself a little whiskey. Don't do that if you're in the morning. I don't suggest that, but get a little sip here. Ooh, that double oak. So good. Okay, so all that being said, we're here. I still want to go over and talk about what I had planned for this podcast, which, if you've listened to the past couple episodes, I'm kind of laying out what the chaos economy is and kind of what I've diagnosed as the chaos economy. So let's quickly go back over what I think the chaos economy is. Simply put, the chaos economy is what we're living in right now as a society. I mean, you know what's chaotic? Wanting to take over Greenland. We'll talk more about that. But, with this chaos economy, I think it's propped up by three primary things. First and foremost is the addiction economy, the internet economy, the algorithmic economy, the attention economy, right? So the algorithms, all that kind of stuff. Second is the sickness economy. And then third, which we're going to touch on today, is the outrage and the division economy, which is in full force right now. But the reason I'm framing this as an economy thing is it is my fundamental belief that societies function from a top-down perspective of economy, of money. Now, I wish that wasn't the case. I wish, guys, that society functioned from a place of just moral and ethical values and what's best for humanity. But that's not the case now, and that has quite honestly never been the case. When we can go back and look at history, and since currency has been a thing, since the idea of monetary policy has been a thing, societies function from a place of economics. And how I think about things as far as societally, I think about incentive structures and what incentivizes most of us in our day-to-day, and what incentivizes the rich, the powerful, the elite, what incentivizes governments, for the most part, is money, is economics. And so that's why I'm deeming this kind of like a chaos economy. I think it's structured and formatted in such a way that it will help line the pockets of those who are already rich and already powerful, but make sure that their pockets are continually getting lined. And so that's how I think about things. So now, when we're talking about the chaos economy, this third subject of the outrage and the division economy, let's quickly remind ourselves that the attention economy was pillar number one to the chaos economy. And the attention economy is the economy of being addicted to specifically algorithms, social media feeds, and doom scrolling and all of those types of things. Now, what you see on your algorithms, the content that is on our algorithms, the content that is consumed through media, for the most part, are divisive things. I mean, I can just look at my social media account and my Instagram, and I get fed a lot of politically divisive stuff. And I think based off of the conversations I have with other people, so do they. And I think, this is on purpose. This is a playbook from traditional media. I mean, any traditional media outlet, traditional news outlet, we know has been purposely divisive in the past 20, 30 years. I mean, we have networks dedicated to one side of the political aisle or the other. Even if they say they're independent, they're not. And again, we know they're not because we can look at the economics. Who is funding them? And again, there might be some things I say in here that's going to piss you off if you're on one side of the aisle or the other. I don't really give a shit, but all you need to do is look at facts and look at economics. Look at who's funding what, okay? Okay, so we have the attention economy. Purposely on the attention economy, on these algorithms, we have divisive content. Why would they do that, Sean? Why would they want it to be divisive? Because when things are divisive, it stirs up emotions in you. Think about the last time you saw something disturbing to you on social media. You had emotions that were stirred up in you. Anger, frustration, sadness. The more emotional you become, the more locked in to that content you become, because we are emotional beings, and I wish it weren't the case, but we seek out those same emotions that we have addictions to. It creates this feedback loop where we feel this emotion around this content. We don't like the way we feel about it. We want to reinforce that emotion, though, in that way we think. And that leads to people being locked in to their camp, whatever side of the aisle you're on politically or whatever the issue is, because you have a belief around a certain topic. You either purposely or consciously or subconsciously seek out reinforcement of that belief system through these algorithms. You'll always be able to find something that affirms your belief set easily on these algorithms. It stirs up an emotion, and that emotion creates a tie to that belief. And now we have this feedback loop. I had a belief. I found content to match my belief. It stirred up an emotion that made it sticky. And now I have that belief even more. And it is my belief that the reason we're in the place we're in right now, where we are so divided as a species, this is not about just America, this is a species as human beings, is part and parcel with social media. Because people will say, all you got to do is look back at history, look at the Romans, look at the Greeks, it's always been this way. Okay, heard, Grandpa. But it's on hyperdrive. And it is on hyperdrive, undisputedly, because of social media. Because of what I just said. You already have a certain belief system. You can go on social media and purposely find things that will always reaffirm your belief system, and it creates an emotion, and that emotion makes it stick. And now we're in this continual feedback loop. People do not go on social media to have their ideas challenged. Why would you do that? They don't want it that way, because if you went on a social media and the first video you saw challenged your ideas, you would get off of social media. They don't want that. And we know this. We've had whistleblowers come out from Facebook, and, Facebook and Instagram are the same thing. Now it's all Meta, but whatever. These different companies, that's what they do. They purposely give you what you want to see because they know it will keep you locked on it. But what they're doing is they're reinforcing your already held belief systems, which is not good for society. We need to be challenged. Our ideas need to be challenged. That's how critical thinking happens. And if you can't handle your ideas being challenged, you're a soft individual up here. When your ideas get challenged, an emotionally mature, a psychologically mature human being is able to listen to that challenge, that argumentation, and take it in. And then filter it through their belief system and, ask the question, where might this person be coming from? Where might this person have a point? How can I rebuttal in a healthy way? What facts do I have? But because, again, we're reinforcing these negative emotions through the attention economy, through these algorithms, very few people have this skill set. And because of all of this, we are divided. We are fed slop that outrages us. we are fed material that will always divide us. And it's not to say bad things aren't happening. What it's to say is your belief system around the bad things that are happening will be reinforced. And what you will not ever be fed are things that challenge your current belief system around the bad things that are happening. Two things can be true. Bad things can be happening, but two different sides will view that bad thing with a different perception based off of their lived life experience, their value sets, their upbringing, etc. You know, it's really interesting to me over the 13 years of coaching, being on a coaching floor for 13 years, interacting with thousands of humans at this point from all different walks of life. When I talk politics, government, society, it's so interesting for me because I will talk to people from all sides of the aisle politically, different countries, whatever it is. And the thing that always strikes me as interesting is that for the most part, fundamentally, people have a general agreement on what the current issues are. Where they differ is maybe like the routes that need to be taken to fix those issues. But we never talk about the commonalities we have, and they want it that way. I say this all the time. They need us divided because if we started realizing that we have more in common with the person who thinks maybe a little bit differently than us or has a different political ideology than us, we would start putting our differences aside and realize what we have in common is that we are being lorded over by the powerful, the elite, the rich, the wealthy, and it doesn't matter what side of the political aisle they're on. I don't care who your favorite flavor of politician is. If you're being honest with yourself, they don't give a rat's ass about you. They don't. And I'm talking about the current administration. I'm talking about the last administration. They don't care. There might be a handful here and there that try to do something altruistically, but even they either get weeded out by the system or they get corrupted. But if we as a society, as the common class, were able to recognize that, we would all go like, well, there's way more of us and not a lot of them, and this shit ain't working for us. And we would put our differences aside. We'd stop with this right versus left, this, extremism on either side, and we'd go like, the thing that this is, it comes back to economy. It is the haves versus the have-nots. In my opinion, especially in the West, we're closer to like pre-revolutionary France than we are necessarily like Civil War America. Pre-revolutionary France, it was the bourgeoisie, right? Let them eat cake and everybody else. And look how that went for the elites. If we actually look at what's going on economically, I mean, somebody in West Virginia who lives in a trailer park has kind of the same issues as somebody who lives in California who can't afford a house. But they can't see eye to eye because they're so focused on the fodder that they're given from these social media apps and from the news that they don't realize, like, dog, you guys got way more in common with each other. You maybe don't see eye to eye on how to fix it, but if you guys came together and realized you have a lot in common, you could actually institute some change that would help both of you equally. But that's why the division economy exists. They have to keep us divided in each other's throats, because if not, massive change would happen. And that's part of the chaos economy, and it works hand in hand with the attention economy, as I said. As I drink my bourbon. And so, how do we get out of this? Well, again, everything I've been focusing on is like, how do we take control of ourselves? If you're already listening to this podcast, you're probably already a bit of a critical thinker. Just by the very nature of what this content is, it's not for most people. It's philosophy, it's self-help. But one of the things that I do is I purposely listen to commentators or news that is opposed to my upbringing, my normal leanings. Like, I'm more of like a liberal leaning type of guy, but I will purposely listen to content from more of the right side of the aisle, purely to have empathy, to like, where are they coming from? Why do they see things this way? Where do I disagree? Oh, where is there a place of commonality? And it helps me see the humanity in people. And I think we can do a lot better. We can take ownership of ourselves and go, I can't control another person, what they think, their beliefs. But what I can control is myself, what content I'm going to consume, my willingness to have my own beliefs challenged, my willingness to listen to other people, my willingness to see somebody else's humanity over their political beliefs, over anything like that, and think critically. Also, to think critically about the content you're consuming. If you are a lover of CNN or a lover of Fox News, I think you should ask yourself, first and foremost, why are they sharing what they're sharing? There's a reason, always, right? So what's the purpose behind them framing a situation this way? Is there a purpose? Don't give them the benefit of the doubt. They don't give you the benefit of the doubt. They don't care about you. The guy who's a multimillionaire on the TV talking to you saying they love and care so much about you, they think you're scum. Just going to be honest. They think you're scum. They do. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle. So you have to ask yourself, well, what are they getting out of this? Why? Okay? You have to become a critical thinker. You have to become a critical thinker of the content you consume. You have to become a critical thinker of, how you argue, how you listen to other people's ideas. And you have to be willing to have empathy for people who think differently than you. Now, again, don't tolerate somebody directly attacking you or threatening you. But, I still think like Martin Luther King. I mean, this is the week of Martin Luther King, holiday. You should lead from a place of love. And that's altruism. I think if you want to have healthy relationships, if you want to have healthy communities, there's going to have to be a bit of give and take and a bit of empathy and go like, hey, okay, this person sees this situation this way. I don't, based off of my lived life experience, but let me try to understand them. Why? It's not that you're going to end up changing your belief systems. Like we get so tied up in our identity that we're so scared to even engage with somebody who thinks differently than us, because I think our ego is like, well, if we engage with them, what does that say about us and our identity? And are we going to change? And if we change, does that mean we're wrong? And we fear all of that. And it's so destructive. And so I think if we can let our ego go a bit and just realize we can have conversations with people who we disagree with and not worry if that's going to what that's going to mean for your identity coming away from that conversation. Like, you don't have to change your beliefs, but you're extending an olive branch so you can just see something from their perspective. This is the only way we start to bring ourselves back together as humanity. And in my opinion, it's the only way we start to possibly institute change, because we get enough of us who put our differences aside and we go, hey, you know what? We got a lot more in common down here than we do with those guys up there trading stocks when they get the information before any of us do. So that's the division economy. They need us divided. They use the algorithms. They use media. The more divided we are, the more we consume that content, the more camped we get in our already held beliefs. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And the worse that gets, the less likely anything meaningful will change, because we're at each other's throats instead of coming together and having enough people to institute change on a grander scale. So, heavier topic. Pretty heavy for the day and age we live in right now. Everything going on in Minnesota, the Greenland stuff, all the political stuff. It's all chaotic. This is why I called it the chaos economy. Every day, you guys open up the freaking Instagram app. I know I do. And it's just like more chaos. But it's by design. The more wound up you are, the more unpredictable things are, the easier you are to manipulate. You got to protect yourselves. And you got to protect your neighbor, man. They're in the same boat as you. Again, even if they think politically differently than you, they're waking up chaotic, on edge, highly emotional. There's a reason we're at each other's throats. We're all like wound up before we even start interacting with each other, because the first thing we do is get on our phones in the morning, see what kind of my version of shitty news is today, and then we don't interact with another human being until 2 hours later, and we're already like wound the fuck up, and we think everybody's the devil. Shit's got to stop, man. I am nervous and scared, quite honestly, for where we're going as a society. But that's why I'm passionate about doing something like this. And it's why I'm passionate about, we have to take ownership of ourselves. It's the only thing we can do at this point. And in taking ownership of ourselves, hopefully build better communities, build better relationships, and then again, in the long run, institute change. I'm sure all 10 of you that watch this will agree. If you're here, thank you for coming to the Friday night. It's not Friday night, it's Wednesday night. I'm getting drunk. The fireside chat. Appreciate it. Nice little podcast. But again, 3 pillars that make up the chaos economy: the attention economy, the sickness economy, and the division and outrage economy. And we are living in it. We have to deal with it. We have to have tools to help ourselves in it. And yeah, that's all I got for this one, guys. See you in the next podcast.